Now, see, matter. What is matter? Anything which occupies space and has mass. You know very well. सभी को पता है. कोई भी ऐसा चीज जो जगह घेरे, स्थान घेरे और उसमें क्या हो, मास हो. मास. मास मतलब किसी भी चीज के अंदर जो मैटर प्रेजेंट है उसी को हम लोग मास कहते हैं. तो किसी भी चीज के अंदर अगर मैटर प्रेजेंट हो और स्पेस को कवर करे उसको हम लोग क्या बोलेंगे, मैटर कहेंगे. ठीक है, विच मीन्स किसी भी चीज के अंदर अगर मास हो, वो मास वाला ऑब्जेक्ट हो. ठीक है. और और कोई भी चीज में अगर वो कुछ स्पेस कवर करे, दैट थिंग इज कॉल्ड मैटर. हाउ डू वी क्लासिफाई मैटर? लाइक क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ मैटर मॉडर्न टाइम्स में भी हम लोग करते हैं और एंशियंट टाइम्स में भी हम लोग के जो इंडियन फिलोसफर्स हुए, दार्शनिक हुए, उन्होंने किया. So early Indian philosophers classified in the form of five basic elements like air, earth, fire, sky, and water, and these are called the Pancha Tattva. जो इंडियन फिलोसफर्स हुए पुराने जमाने में, they have classified the matters into five different types like air, earth, fire, sky, and water. They thought that everything is composed of all these five basic elements, and they are quite true about it, you know, back then. Now, and they call these tattvas, that is elements, five basic elements or the tattvas, as the pancha tattva. Pancha means five. Now, on the basis of physical state, matter is classified as solids, liquids, and gases. State of being, like physical state, on the basis of physical state, how they appear to be. On that basis, matter is classified into three different parts. The first one is the solid, second one is the liquid, and the third one is the gases. But in modern times, we have classified matter into five different types like solid, liquids, gases, and thereafter the plasma and Bose-Einstein condensate (BEC), which we will discuss later on. On the basis of chemical composition, matter is classified as pure substance and mixture, like on the basis of their internal chemical properties and chemical composition of which they are made up of. Matters are classified as pure substance or mixtures. Matters can be either pure substance or can be mixtures. Mixtures are those substances which have purity also and impurity also, which means mixtures contain some pure substance and some impure substance, whereas pure substance contain only pure substance, there is no impurity into that. Clear? नाउ प्योर सब्सटेंसेज में भी एलिमेंट्स और कंपाउंड. जो प्योर सब्सटेंस होते हैं वो या तो एलिमेंट हो सकते हैं या फिर एलिमेंट से बने कंपाउंड हो सकते हैं. या तो एक एलिमेंट होगा या फिर एलिमेंट्स के मिलने से बना हुआ कंपाउंड होगा, which means pure substance can be elements or they can also be compounds. Okay, and pure substance and mixtures, they both combine together to be called as what? Matters. So matters are classified on the basis of their composition as pure substances and mixtures. Pure substances may be elements or they can also be compounds. We will discuss in this chapter, the chapter that we are studying, we'll discuss in this chapter about the states of matter, which means on the basis of physical appearance of matter, how do we classify them? We'll discuss this. And in the next chapter, that is matter around us pure, we'll be discussing the chemical composition of matter. In that chapter, we'll discuss the classification of matter on the basis of chemical composition, that is pure substances and mixture, that is elements, compounds, all these things will be discussed in the upcoming class, the following class right after this. Okay. Now, mixtures can be homogeneous also or they can be heterogeneous also. Homogeneous, equal composition; heterogeneous, variable composition. We'll discuss about all these things one after the other. Now, physical nature of matter. So, all matter are made up of tiny particles, and all particles are very tiny. They are very small, very, very, very small. The particles sometimes they are even sometimes even they are not visible by naked eyes. We can't see them with the naked eyes. They are tiny. Now, the particles of the matter have spaces between them, which means particles have some spaces. It depends. The spacage in some particles between some particles are less compared to the others, and that decides the state of matter. If the spaces between the particles are very less, then the particles will be termed as what? Then the particles composition will be termed as solids. If the space is little bit more compared to the solids, then then that composition of the particles is called as liquids. And if the particles space between the particles, which means interparticular or intermolecular spacage, will be highest, then those composition of the different particles will be termed as gaseous state of matter. Now, the particles of matter have spaces between them which decides their physical state, that whether they will be solid, liquid or gas. जो पार्टिकल के बीच में स्पेस होता है वही डिसाइड करता है कि वो सॉलिड होगा कि लिक्विड होगा कि गैस होगा. अगर पार्टिकल्स के बीच में स्पेस एकदम कम हो, बहुत क्लोजली पैक्ड हो, टाइटली पैक्ड हो, पार्टिकल्स पास पास हो, नजदीक नजदीक हो, ठीक है, तो उनको हम लोग क्या कहेंगे? उनको हम लोग कहेंगे सॉलिड. अगर पार्टिकल्स क्या हो? दूर 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 हो, ठीक है, तो उनको हम लोग कहेंगे लिक्विड. और पार्टिकल्स बहुत दूर बहुत दूर बहुत दूर बहुत दूर बहुत दूर हो, ठीक है, उनको कहेंगे गैसेस. ठीक है, तो पार्टिकल्स के बीच के स्पेस से डिसाइड होता है कि वो सॉलिड होंगे, लिक्विड होंगे या गैसेस होंगे, गैस होंगे. नाउ द पार्टिकल्स ऑफ मैटर आर कंटिन्यूअसली मूविंग. पार्टिकल्स आर नॉट एट रेस्ट, they are constantly moving in a matter. They are at motion, they hit each other, collide with each other and do these type of things. Now the particles of matter attract each other because of the force of attraction. Because of their movement, there is a force of attraction between the different particles, which means particles attract each other towards each other. Every particle of a matter attract each other towards each other. Okay, now this is the thing. So matter is made up of particles. For this we need to do an activity to understand this. So take some water in a beaker. There is a beaker here in which you have to take some water and note its level. What you need to do is to note its level, which means how much water is there in the beaker. Now dissolve some salt or sugar in it, and with the help of a glass rod, now first thing that you need to do, either add salt or sugar into it and put anything like a stirring element, a stirring thing, a stirring component. You can put a teaspoon or tablespoon or like any stir. So and thereafter you have to stir that. आपको उसको क्या करना है? घोलना है. The salt dissolve in the water, but the level of water does not change. चाहे आप salt रखो या फिर सुगर रखो, वो डिजोल्व तो हो जाएगा पानी में और फिर से आप पानी का लेवल मापो. ठीक है, पानी के लेवल में कोई भी चेंज नहीं आएगा. ऐसा इसलिए होता है बिकॉज द पार्टिकल्स ऑफ वाटर गेट इनटू द स्पेसेस बिटवीन द पार्टिकल्स ऑफ वाटर. यहाँ पर वाटर को चेंज करके आप क्या कर लोगे? सॉल्ट. क्या कर लोगे? सॉल्ट. ओके, नोट लिखते वक्त द पार्टिकल्स ऑफ सॉल्ट the particles of salt get into the space between the particles of water. This is very simple to understand. जो वाटर के पार्टिकल्स हैं उनके बीच में पहले से क्या मौजूद है बच्चे? स्पेस मौजूद है, उनके बीच में जगह है और उस जगह में जो है वो क्या हो जाता है? सॉल्ट का पार्टिकल घुस जाता है, उसी जगह में चला जाता है. इसलिए सॉल्ट के जाने के, सॉल्ट के डिजोल्व होने के बावजूद, इधर सॉल्ट या सुगर के डिजोल्व होने के बावजूद, इवन दो the salt is being dissolved in the water, still the level of water does not change. पानी का स्तर वही रहता है, उसमें कोई भी परिवर्तन is not visible at all. Now this shows that matter is made up of particles. This is the reason why we say that matter is made up of particles. यही कारण है कि हम कहते हैं कि मैटर्स जो हैं बच्चे वो किस चीज से बने हुए हैं? पार्टिकल्स से बने हुए हैं. अगर पार्टिकल्स से बने नहीं होते तो फिर जो सॉल्ट है वो पानी में घुलता तो फिर वाटर लेवल बढ़ जाता, क्योंकि उसके बीच में तो स्पेस नहीं होता ना. तो पार्टिकल्स से बना है, दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई देयर इज अ स्पेस बिटवीन देम, एंड इफ द स्पेस इज बिटवीन देम, so the salt goes inside that, or any component that we dissolve into that, which have a viable tendency to dissolve, that will simply get dissolved, and the particles of that component or the solute that we are adding in the solvent, they will get into the spaces between the particles that are present of the water, which means the interparticular distance edge fills the particles of the other elements, which makes it very easy for the particles to dissolve into that. So this is why we call that matter is made up of the particles. Clear to everyone? If you have to ask something, you can ask now so that we could move further. We can move further. Oh shit. What the hell has just happened? The class abruptly ended.